Starting. Okay, I'm online. Perfect. So we are talking right now about national assemblies. So as I said, we're going to talk about the Président de Séance. This is the live CIS, the national compendium. So we are going to talk Président de Séance, appel, quorum, vote, motions, and how to behave in the legislations. So let's start with the title number one. This is going to be nice because I have there is nothing written. I'm just going to go through the compendium with gifs and funny things. So, President de Séance needs to be elected. The President de Séance, who is the President de Séance? Basically, is a person that is going to run the legislation, and that is the one that makes sure that everything happens in the legislation in the way that is supposed to happen. It needs to be elected by absolute majority. And if there is no President de Séance, the President of AESEC in France, for you guys, will be Francisco. He will be the person taking the role of President of the Séance. The person don't have any vote, don't have the right of voting inside the legislation, neither the MC. So literally, guys, you are the ones that decide. The MC can propose motions, but we cannot vote. Therefore, at the end of the day, the final decision of every single thing that happened in AESEC in France is up to you. And the president of SEANS don't have at all like a right to vote. Something super important, guys, and this is something also that happened last year, and that is important that you have in consideration. If you guys feel that the president have like a personal interest over one of the motions that are going to be discussed, you can ask for the president to be removed or changed, because like the idea is that this person keeps the like the right path for the things that are going to happen. So super important, guys. I'm just going through the articles of the compendium, so you can also go and check it. It's literally I'm going one by one. And something super important, and that happened a lot in AESEC in France, is that the president of SEANS is mandatory to speak French. Sometimes, like, I don't think that this year, but last year, when I was MCVP, there was like two people that were president of SEANS that didn't handle the French, so at all, not even like me, but like not at all. So it was really difficult to run the legislation. So it's mandatory that the person that is being the president of SEANS actually uh, speak fluent French. And if the people in the LCPs feel that the person don't handle properly the French, you can ask that the president is replaced by someone that can handle the French, can be any member of the federation. Okay, now let's go with the call, l'appel. So at the beginning, okay, this is my gift. At the beginning of every single legislative meeting, there will be a appel, meaning that we will see who are the people that are present in that moment. So, for example, I will say AESEC in Lille, présent. AESEC in Toulouse, présent. AESEC in Cache Bordeaux, présent. Just to know who are the people that are going to be there, and that is also going to help us to understand what is going to be the quorum of opening the assembly and the quorum of voting. Okay. Something super important is the president of SEANS needs every single time to remember, or no, to like to explain to the people that is going to be in the assembly, to LCPs and sometimes VPs finance, what are the rules of the space. So that is what happened after the appel. Something super important also that we have in this specific titre is that after we open legislation, no one is allowed to get out of the room or get into the room without an authorization of the table. Who are the table? President de séance, secretary de séance, and that's all. And something super important is in this specific space, when you are being called at the beginning of the legislation, as LCPs, you need to explain to the President de Séance and to the MC why some members of your EB are not in the conference. The legislations always happen in conferences, like general assemblies that are ordinary happen in conferences. So it's a moment also to explain why the members of your EB are not there. This usually don't happen because the justificatives like are sent before, but like if the president de séance decide to do it, you need to answer why the people is not there. So this is the part 2. Now go with the part number 3. First thing, in order to open a national assembly, 2/3 of the voting members should be there. 2/3 of the total amount of votes. If we don't have this amount of people, therefore we cannot open legislation and we cannot take decisions. So this is super important to take in consideration, and that's why all the LCPs should be involved, and you guys should push the other LCPs to be in the legislative spaces, because if you don't legislate, at the end of the day, you are not going to be able to approve budget or to move forward in terms of I don't know, any single project that you as generation want to implement. And the next important thing is that if there is not enough people, meaning if there is no quorum to open the assembly is passed to a new day, also as a general assembly with the same minute, with the same ordre du jour, but waiting for the quorum. So literally, let's put an example. If you have legislation on Friday on a conference and not everyone is there, you have legislation on Saturday. And if there is not enough people on Saturday, you have in Sunday. Simple like that. So this is super important to have, and that's why the LCPs should be from the beginning to the single end of every single conference. Something super important to say here is that the quorum of opening an assembly is not the same quorum of voting. The quorum to open an assembly here in the compendium says that is 2/3 of the total amount of people voting, of votes, and the quorum to approve a motion depends on the kind of motion. If it's part of the quitus moral, like moral or financial quitus of the organization, so things that are directed, related with the financial or the specific things that we do as organization, needs to be approved with 2/3 of the quorum of the assembly, and if not, most of the things are approved with a simple majority, meaning half plus 1. Now let's go to the next one, that is the vote. So for the vote, each LC, so there is different kind of LCs as it's explained in the compendium. You can go and read, but like each LC have a specific amount of votes. So I will explain here. So a full member have 2 votes. Okay, a full member have 2 votes. So, for example, AS aquí en Jaén, AS aquí en Sciences Po, AS aquí in UDP, AS aquí in Dauphine are ASs that have 2 votes because they are fulfilling all the criteria that we have present in our national compendium. A member in alert, that is an LC that is not fulfilling all the requirements for LCs that there are in the compendium. It's not like we invent and we just decide who are. No, it's just the things that are in the compendium. These people have 1 vote. And this is a little more complicated, and is that when there is expansions, 4 expansions give us 1 vote. If there is no 4 expansions, well, they cannot vote. They have 1/4 of a vote, but it's just count in the moment that there is 4 of them. In this moment in ISAC in France, we just have 1 expansion, that is ISAC in Néo-Marans. The rest of you are or full members or members in alert. Next one. Procuration is another important figure that we need to understand in terms of legislation, um, and is when you give the right to another person to vote for you. Something really important is not the like, or the procuration should not be like, hey, yeah, you decide for me. No, you should read what is going to be voted and tell to that person, hey, I want you to vote this in this motion, this in this motion, and this in this motion. So it happened a lot that the people just say like, yeah, I just want you to vote whatever, and after that they don't like what was decided, and they said, yeah, but there was procurations. Well, if you were not there and you give a procuration, mean that you trust the person for vote to vote for you. Something super important is that the procuration should not be used to propose motions or to second motions. So, for example, if you are Isaac in Lille and you have the procuration of Isaac in UDP, you can propose and second motions as Isaac in Lille, but not as Isaac in UDP. Next one. And now, in the next article, that is the article 101, we're going to talk about the kind of votes that we have in Isaac in France. So the first one is the vote, like acclamation vote. It's vote for pour acclamation. That basically what you do is that the president de séance asks if we can pass that motion for acclamation. Usually is for the motions that don't have discussion or motions that are just procedure, like election of the president de séance, election of the secretary de séance, opening of the assembly and closing of the assembly. And basically you just hit the table with your hands or you clap, and that's all. Then we have a main levy, and it's literally when there is discussion and we count the votes for each thing. So in this case, we count the votes that are for, against, and blank or abstentions. So literally we see and we count each one of the people that are voting. This is for the motions that are not procedure, that literally the people are putting their opinion. And the last one is the bulletin secret, that is usually used for important figures or things that are necessary to have or that you as assembly ask to have with a secret vote. For example, election of MCP is vote like that, an election and confidence vote for MCVPs, because like literally to avoid politics and to avoid bad things inside the federation, it's better when the people just don't know, because yeah, that's all. And there is another important thing, and is that we can also have a virtual legislation that we are going to have like a lot, maybe, and mostly in the time of election of MCVPs, or in the case that Francisco decides to open a virtual assembly. And in this case, you are going to vote through a platform that is election runner. It's super easy. You just receive an email, you open a link, vote, and after that, on a really on an incognito way, is going to send that information to a platform, and the platform is going to give the results. And that's all. Okay, so also something important is that if one of the votes in secret vote is not written in the right way, it will be considered as annulé. Now we go with the next part that is important, and is the motions. So the motions is the way that we have to propose things inside the legislations, and it's super important because literally is the power that you guys have to give shape or to give any source of frame to the federation and to the things that you expect from Isaac in France. So the first thing is that there is an explanation in terms of motion, and is what is the majorities. That is the things that we were talking before. So how motions are approved. So the first thing is that a simple majority is just when the votes for are more than the votes against. This, for example, happens in elections in vote of confidence for MCVPs. It's not necessary to have like half plus one, just with having more votes for that against is enough. So, for example, if there is blank votes or abstentions, like you just need to have more for than against. Then we have the majorité qualifiée or qualified majority, that is 2/3 of the votes. That is super important. And then we have,
Can I ask a question?
sure,
You said like when there's abstention. Like what if there's more abstention than majority? What's the solution?
more abstention than majority. Okay, so the abstention, in legal terms, abstention, when you abstain yourself of voting, you are giving to the others the right or the power of deciding for yourself because you don't have enough information, or literally because you are giving the other people the decision over the specific topic.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
understand, but like
in that
what if
case,
there are much
it will
more
just be the
abstention?
majority. Like, for example, if you have 10 people and 7 have abstention
Yeah.
and 2 vote for yes and 1 vote for no, in case of MCVPs, in MCVP's vote of confidence, theoretically, you will need to pass the motion.
What if there's equal, like two yes, two no?
2 yes to no. Usually, those cases, like in a specific, in case of these MCVPs, like the person will not happen because the simple majority require you to have more yes than no's. So if there is two
Mhm.
and two, the person don't pass, or the motion don't pass.
So you delay and you do it again?
No, simply it don't pass. So the people like, so you will need in a next legislation to repropose the motion.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Don't worry. Um, and it says here that the blank votes and the abstentions are not count during the in the total of the votes. That's what I was saying. So, for example, if you have 7, if you have 10, and 7 are abstentions, therefore you don't count them. You just count with the people that is voting for and against. That is what the compendium says. Next, in terms of motions, it says, I don't know why it's here. It's a specific article. For me, it should not be there, but it says that each member have the right to talk during the legislative sessions. That is super important. And is that it doesn't matter if you're a big LC, medium LC, focus in OGB, focus in OGT, or whatever LC, you have the right of talking and giving your opinion during the legislations. And now we are going to talk about the kind of motions that we are going to have in the legislation. And this is super important to understand because it gives the scope of the motion and how powerful it is and how affects the specific compendium or the work of a specific person. So the first thing is that we have permanent motions. There are things that literally modify the compendium on a permanent way. And it's important to say that they start to count from the next legislation. I will explain. So, for example, if you guys in your first legislation, that is the LCP summit in September, if you guys decide there to change the membership criteria, all the things are going to start to change in the legislation of LEAD. So it doesn't apply to things immediately. Then we have the things, the motions of durée limitée or limited duration, that these motions happen just to have a specific frame of time. So, for example, a peak, because there is a specific thing that need to be solved during this peak, or a specific price that just is going to work for this specific frame of time. That happen a lot in entities that don't have financial stability. Not like ISEC in France, because the euro is super strong, like literally is one of the strongest things on earth, the euro. But like in some entities, they use this for that or any other thing that have a limited period of time. So, for example, if you guys decide, I don't know, that during the next 5 months there will be no audits just because we are crazy. Okay, that can happen, but it will be limited. And after that, we have the mandate. The mandate is super important and is a super tool that legislations have in order to make or the MC or the LCPs or the subcommissions of LCPs to work in something specifically. So a mandate is a mission that the National Assembly is giving to a person or to a group of people, to a committee or to a group of committees, or to the MC to fulfill a specific duty. So, for example, I don't know, let's say we put a mandate for the MC to do a research about the scope of the influence of cookies in ISAC, and they need to do it. Of course, it needs to be justified and it needs to be approved, but it's a really useful tool. Like you can literally give a scope of strategy in these terms. If we continue in this specific teeth, we are going to find specific things that the president de séance can do in the legislation in order to accelerate the motions. So the president first can say, okay, this motion has been discussed a lot. I decide that is going to pass immediately to vote. So for example, it happened a lot that there is people talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Is super sure that they will not arrive to an agreement. So the president says, it's enough. We're just passing to vote. And it also can be proposed by the people in the assembly. The second one is that the president de séance can decide the maximum time for the discussion of a motion. So, for example, the president can say, we're going to have 20 minutes to discuss this motion, no more, no less. The president of séance can also decide that if the motion is going too long, that didn't happen this year. Fortunately, that a legislation went like to 2 or 3 or 4 a.m. But sometimes it happens. So, like the president can say, okay, we are going to stop here and we are going to continue tomorrow. And also, the president can ask that the motions are voted in block. What does this mean? And is that sometimes there is several motions that need to be separated, but that are related to just one topic. So, for example, if we decide to change the name of a Spark, and now we want to call it Cheese, and that will be the name of the conference, there is a lot of articles in the compendium that need to be modified. So we propose all the changes, but we say we are going to vote from the motion 10 to the motion 40 in block because they are all about the same topic. That saves a lot of time. So it's super important for you to have in mind. Okay, next one is that who can propose a motion? The first people that have the motion is, or the people that can propose a motion are the full members. And also, it's super important to know that just the person, it says the compendium, that just the person that proposed the motion have the right of speaking, like when they give it the parole le proposeur, like to speak in terms of how to explain the motion, the person have the right or of the priority over this. And it's super important to know that every motion need to have a seconder. If a motion don't have a seconder, literally is discarded and is not voted. According to legal terms, a seconder is a person that allows the conversation to happen. Is not, or it should not be mandatory for the seconder to vote for the motion, but in the specific compendium of ISAC in France, it says that you need to vote for if you are seconding the motion. That's something that needs to be changed because in legal terms is incorrect. Okay, let's continue. Dun, dun, dun. Something important is that the entities that are not full members, but members in alert also have the right of proposing a motion, but they need to be seconded by a full member. Like literally two members in alert cannot propose and second a motion. They need a full member for it. Tun, turun. Something super important is that the president of seance decide what is the order of the people that is talking. So if there is a lot of people that want to talk about a specific topic, they just raise their hand, and the president of seance says, okay, you are going to talk first, then you, then you, then you, then you. And after that, the compendium have an article that explains what is a mandat that I just explained to you, so it's okay. And then it says that, and this is super, super important, and is that the president de séance can le president of séance or the president of ISEC in France is the president of ISEC in France can ask for a virtual legislation of urgence in any case that he considers necessary. And that is super important. There is things super specific when a president can ask for virtual legislation with sense of urgency. He don't need to send a booklet or anything when it's absolutely urgent, and the people need to attend this. But there is specific cases when this happen. And then we have, following this, when there is no urgency or when there is a normal legislation, virtual or physical legislation, you are supposed to receive your booklet of legislation 5 days before the first version and 2 days before the second version for you to check specifically what are the things that you are going to vote. So there is no excuse for the people that to say, hey, I didn't know what was I going to vote. And the next part is what I was telling you, and is if you propose a motion, you cannot vote against. And if you second a motion, you cannot vote against. That's what the compendium says right now. But I want to leave here the mark, and I think that is something important for you to know, guys, and is that this is incorrect. In legal terms, if you are seconding a motion, you are just allowing the motion to be discussed. So you should not be obliged to vote for it. Then the last part we have of the behaviors inside the legislation. So this is super fast, super concrete. The first one is everyone that have the right to speak needs to receive this right from the president of seance. To if this doesn't happen, like everyone will start to speak, and everything turns into a crazy thing. So you need to wait for the president to speak, and you need to address the president. Like, thank you, president, or to talk to the president of seance. Second thing is that no one have the right of talking 2 times in the same motion if there is another person on the line of waiting that haven't talked yet. Then no one have the right of speaking more than 10 minutes about a specific motion. That is super important. Like, I don't think that it happened this year, but like if one person is talking more than 10 minutes about a motion, literally is talking bullshit. So literally that is the limit that you should have. And the last one, and this is super important, and is the president of seance have the right of accepting people to be inside the legislation and allow them to talk. So this is something that happens a lot, and is that, for example, I invite people from the MC, or I invite externals, or I invite former LCPs or alumni to be in the legislation to explain one of the specific things that are going to be discussed, and is the president of seance the one that accept who is going to be there, and also the order. The president of seance also agree on the order of people that is going to talk. That was at national level. Now at local level, in general terms, what is supposed to happen? You should also have assemblies, guys. And this is super important because in the same way that the national office have you as members and we are reporting to you constantly, you should do the same with your members. So at the end of the day, an LC is not owned by the EV. The LC is not from the LCP. The LC is for the members, from the members, and by the members. Like they, all of them, including you, including your EV, including your TLs, including your members or the person that just joined ISEC, you are all ISEC. So we are supposed to report and to make democratic decisions. So annually, you should have elections and reporting of the things that happen. Every semester, you should legislate a budget or the modifications that you make of your local budget. And every quarter, this is just suggested, you should report what is the work of your EBs and report what is the current state of the LC. And with that, that is all the session. I hope that you enjoy it, guys. If you have any question about legislation, I love legislation. It's one of my favorite topics in ISEC. So if you need something about this, don't hesitate to ask me. But that was all in general. So thank you so much. And that was all from my side.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, AJ, for staying the entire call. You're amazing. And yeah, if you have any doubt about legislation, let me know, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Okay.
Have a nice end of the week.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.